So we're here at TP Diliman and we're looking for some decomposing plants here at TP Diliman. Let's see if we can find some.
The most essential nutrients that are required in the flow of energy within the ecosystem are recycled. Some of these nutrients are carbon and nitrogen. Carbon, released in the atmosphere by living organisms as carbon dioxide and also deposited in rocks and minerals, are taken up by plants for photosynthesis. This in turn is transferred in the food chain through producers, herbivores, carnivores, and the like. This becomes stored in the living tissues, and when these creatures die, the nutrients are returned to the soil. The decomposers, such as bacteria, break down the decaying organisms, and carbon produced is absorbed in the sediment and released to the atmosphere. This process is known as nutrient cycling. Although some nutrients are not returned to the soil. Nitrogen, usually taken up through the plant roots in the form of ammonium and nitrate, directly influences the rate of net primary productivity. As the plant tissue starts to senesce, the process of retranslocation within the plant is exhibited. As chlorophyll levels decline in the leaves, the green color of the leaves turn into brown caused by the presence of tannins. As senescence occurs, water and nutrients are being drawn to the stems and away from the leaves. As much as 70% of nitrogen is reabsorbed. Thus, reducing the amount of nutrients returned to the soil. The availability of nitrogen directly influences the rate of photosynthesis, which involves the incorporation of inorganic materials such as carbon dioxide, solar energy, water, and other nutrients into organic compounds. The energy fixed by photosynthesis is released through the process of decomposition. Decomposition is the breakdown of chemical bonds formed during photosynthesis. The nutrient quality of dead organic material varies greatly. This shows that if the nitrogen concentrations are high in value, then the nutrient value for the microbes and fungi that feed on the leaf are also higher. Mineralization is a process wherein microbial decomposers, such as bacteria and fungi, consume dead organic matter, and in turn transform nitrogen and other elements contained in organic compounds to inorganic. As mineralization takes place, immobilization also happens. Immobilization is the process where mineral nitrogen are uptaken and assimilated by bacterial decomposers. Since these processes are taking place while consuming the litter, the supply rate of mineral nutrients to the soil during the process of decomposition becomes the net mineralization rate, or the difference between the rates of mineralization and immobilization. The change in the nitrogen content of plant litter while decomposition has three stages. First, the amount of nitrogen in the litter declines as water-soluble compounds are leached from the litter. Then, nitrogen concentration increases as microbial decomposers immobilize nitrogen from outside the litter. Second, nitrogen content of the fungi and bacteria is higher than that of the plant they are feeding on. As decomposition proceeds further, the carbon quality declines and the mineralization rate exceeds the immobilization rate. As a result of this, net nitrogen in the soil is released. Forest is a woodland ecosystem consisting of an aggregation of plants such as shrubs, trees, and herbs. The uppermost layer of a forest, made up of a cover of trees, is the canopy. It is formed by mature crowns and biological animals such as birds, snakes, and tree frogs. The next layer is the understory, where little sunshine reaches the area. Plants in this area are usually shrubs who only grow up until 12 feet. Last layer is the forest floor, where living organisms such as bacteria, fungi, and animals who interact with the environmental substrate such as the soil, air, water, organic debris, and rocks. One of the organisms who exhibit interaction are the mosses or bryophytes. Mosses play a role in the isolation of carbon and the decomposition rate of other decaying organisms by limiting the available nutrients in plants and encouraging the growth of evergreen shrubs. Some of these decaying organisms found on the forest floor are dead leaves. Invertebrates such as caterpillars break up the tissues into smaller fragments, and in turn, fungi and other microscopic bacteria attack and degrade the cellulose. Decomposition also occurs in aquatic environments like the ocean, stream, and canals. This process occurs more rapidly in aquatic environments because this type of ecosystem is more accessible to detritivores and has a more favorable physical environment for microbial decomposers compared to the terrestrial ecosystem. In the lentic ecosystems, which are non-flowing, such as the pond, dead and organic material become constantly ingested, digested, and mineralized until the organic matter settles on the bottom to form humic compounds. In the lotic ecosystems, which are flowing, such as the stream, filtering and gathering collectors filter fecal material and fine particles consumed by shredders. Dissolved organic matter from the water is taken up by algae. Grazers and scrapers then feed on algae, bacteria, fungi, and organic matter collected on rocks and large debris. In rocky shores of the ocean, humic compounds may be further fragmented and digested by crabs, snails, and mollusks who are bottom-dwelling detritivores. Nutrient cycling is an essential process in all ecosystems and represents a direct link between net primary productivity and decomposition. The nature of this link varies among ecosystems, particularly between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystem includes the plants that bridge the physical separation between the decomposition zone at the soil surface and the productivity zone in the plant canopy. The role of the root systems in terrestrial ecosystem is to provide access to nutrients made available in the soil through decomposition, while the vascular system transports nutrients to the site of production. In aquatic ecosystem, plants do not always function to bridge the zones of production in ecosystem. The nutrients of streams come from the inputs in the form of dead organic matter from adjacent terrestrial ecosystems, rainwater, and subsurface seepage. Although internal cycling follows general pathway as the terrestrial and open water ecosystems, the continuous directional movement of water affects nutrient cycling in stream ecosystems. This type of nutrient distribution is termed as nutrient spiraling. Flowing water has an added element called the spatial cycle. Nutrients are constantly carried downstream, and the transport of nutrients depend on the speed of flow. It can also be influenced by the biological and physical factors that holds nutrients in place. One cycle in the spiral is the uptake of an atom of nutrient, its passage through the food chain, and its return to the water where it is available for use. The distance of the spiral dictates its one complete cycle. The longer the distance required, the more open is the spiral. On the other hand, the shorter the distance, the more open the spiral is. Coastal ecosystems are among the most productive environments. This is because water from the streams and rivers eventually drains to ocean where an estuary is located. As the river or stream reach an ocean, sediments are deposited and the current velocity drops. The buildup of sediments contribute in the creation of alluvial plains of estuaries, giving rise to mudflats and salt marshes. The distribution of nutrients in these ecosystems are different from terrestrial, open water, and stream ecosystems. The nutrient cycle in these areas are the combination of some of the features of the three mentioned earlier. Nutrients are carried into the coastal marshes by precipitation, surface water, and groundwater. The rise and fall of water depth with the tidal cycle also contributes to nutrient distribution in these areas. Global pattern of ocean surface currents influences patterns of surface water temperature, productivity, and nutrient cycling. One example of this is the Coriolis effect, which drives the patterns of surface water. Coriolis effect actually contribute to the lateral flow limited to the upper loom, but certain regions can result to vertical circulation or upwelling of water. At the same time, these surface waters are pushed offshore, resulting in a deeper, more nutrient-rich waters transported vertically to the surface. Surface currents give rise to a similar pattern of upwelling in the equatorial waters, resulting to the movement of cold, nutrient-rich water to the surface via vertical transport of subsurface water. Decomposition is not only present in plants and animals but also in humans too. Nature has a way to remove the necessary nutrients that can be taken up from the body and included in the nutrient cycle. The process of human decomposition starts in the intestines where the symbiont microorganisms start to break down dead intestinal cells. This is evident in the green patch present in the lower right belly. Then, special bacteria called Clostridia and coliforms start to invade other parts of the body. Putrefaction spreads across the stomach and travels down to the thighs and up to the chest. The enzymes present in the body also act to degrade the cells. tendons and ligaments are usually the last to degrade. After putrefaction, the body undergoes black putrefaction, fermentation, and dry decay. A corpse left above ground is rapidly broken down by insects and animals. Maggots invade the body after a few days, and after a month, the body liquefies. If buried, a body without a coffin usually takes 8 to 12 years before it becomes a skeleton. If inside a coffin, the composition is dictated by the coffin used. If cremated, the body is subjected to extremely high temperatures. After several hours, all that remains are small bone fragments. These bones are ground and placed in the urn. Garbage decomposes at different rates. Most plastics are derived from propylene. When heated in the presence of a catalyst, the chemical monomers of propylene link to further strengthen the bond. This results in a long polymer called polypropylene. This chemical is not present in the environment, thus degrading it is a problem. The main ingredient of glass is silica, which is one of the hardest and most stable mineral on Earth. The heat generated from the force of the impact that created glass contributes to its stability. A compound also found in glass is hard to decompose because it is not naturally found.